don't date somebody that's over 30. An attractive woman that's over 30 and that's single, to me, is problems. Why are you single?
Yes.
You have probably too many experiences with men, so you're carrying a lot of emotional baggage that I don't deserve to have to deal with. The older one gets, if they're not locked into a growth mindset early, able to take constructive criticism and pivot and want to be right, they're not going to change the older they get. They get more stuck in their ways, more brazen. They really think that they be telling people about like, but you're lonely. All right, strong woman.
It was one of these things where like you come to that realization that this works for you and this doesn't, and like, can you take that feedback and understand? Because as men, we have to do that.
In the whole grand scheme of things, a lot of men try to write older women off as in problematic. They have a lot of baggage. They have a lot of trauma from their past, and they don't want to suffer for it. But in the whole grand scheme of things, a lot of you men label a woman's experience as trauma, as baggage. A lot of you label a woman's intuition as trauma and baggage. A lot of you label a woman's, problematic. You'll label a woman problematic because she will call you out on your stuff. She will not allow you to sit there and manipulate her, gaslight her, lie to her, cheat on her, abuse her. That's what a lot of you men think a good woman is. You think a good woman is a woman that's just going to sit there and take it and be your punching bag, your trauma filter where you can just dump all your trauma and your drama on them. That's why a lot of these older women, they're not going for it. But you label them as toxic. You label them as problematic. No, the problem is they can spot it from a mile off. They know the games, they know the trickery, they know the deception, and they will call you out on it. They will hold your feet to the fire. Y'all say y'all want, a lot of you say you want a good woman. You don't want a good woman. A good woman will challenge you. A good woman has experience under her belt. A good woman will hold your feet to the fire. If you coming home and you upset and you frustrated about your job, you frustrated about your boss, all this other stuff, after a month go by, she gonna say, all right, babe, well, look, you know your job, you've been complaining about it for months. You've been complaining about it for years or whatever. Look, you've been talking about this plumbing apprentice. You've been talking about electrician, welding, all this other. Let's get that certification for you. Let's go to school, babe. Let's slow it down. Go to school. Let's go to part-time. Get your certification, and then you'll be happy doing what you want to do. Let's stop talking and go for it, babe. See, y'all don't want that. Y'all don't want a woman to check you and hold your feet to the fire because a lot of you label that as nagging. A lot of you label that as nagging. But see, these younger women that's inexperienced, they're not going to hold your feet to the fire. They're not going to say something to you. They're not going to call you out. They're not going to hold you accountable and hold you by what you say. These younger women are just going to be quiet and they're just going to let you take care of them, which is a whole hypocrisy because a lot of you men, you don't want to be tricked out of your money, right? You don't want to be used, but then you want to avoid a woman labeling her as problematic or all this other stuff because she's older and single. Man, something wrong with her. Man, ain't wife you up yet. Man, you don't got no kids yet. Man, that means something wrong with you. But you'll rather go to a younger woman that could use you for your money. And then when that younger woman use you for your money and you get the short end of the stick, you pop a baby in her. And now you can't see your baby. And now you on child support from dealing with a young woman. Now you want to label all women this, all women that. No, your deceptive mindset want a younger woman because you feel like a lot of you men feel like you can run game on them, which unfortunately you can. Unfortunately you can. But see, these younger women, they haven't tapped into what I call the God-ordained women's intuition. They're not clicking on all fours yet. These older women, they clicking on all fours. They clicking on all 4 cylinders. They clicking on all 8 cylinders, 12 cylinders. And they can see it before it even happened. And that's what a lot of you don't like. You don't like your feet being held to the fire. You don't, like I say, you don't want a good woman. You don't want a good woman. But a lot of you create these women that y'all complain about. Y'all talk about women for being on OnlyFans. Why is OnlyFans a $1 billion industry? Why? You could talk about the women that have the huge platforms, the huge followings on there, but who's making it a $1 billion industry? Men subscribing to the content. Why is adult films a $1 billion industry? Who's watching adult content that much, giving it that much viewership, making it a $1 billion industry? I'll tell you who's making it a $1 billion industry. Men. Why is the strip clubs a $1 billion industry? Who's keeping the lights on at these strip clubs? You can talk about the lifestyle of the dancers. You can talk about the lifestyle of the strippers. But who's keeping these strip clubs open? The supportive men going in there, making it rain, literally. So that's why I say all this stuff y'all say about women, all the whining and the crying and the intellectual babbling. That's what I call it, intellectual whining, intellectual babbling talking points. Y'all create the women that y'all complain about. And some of you just flat out avoid good women. And like Instagram, TikTok, whatever platform, you talk about women, with BBLs and showing their body and half naked women and all this other stuff. But when you go into the comment section, who's posting comments? Men. Who's cash apping these women? Men. Who's falling for the thirst traps in the DMs? Men. Who's flying these women out? Men. Y'all create the women that y'all complain about. And the women that's actually of substance, of quality, you don't want them. You want to write them off as too much baggage, too much trauma. And there's so many men walking around here that's a bunch of hypocrites. 2 Timothy chapter 3, when you read it, it will show you how a lot of men are when it comes to this perilous times that we living in. Men will be lovers of themselves. Men will be truce breakers. It says people will be truce breakers. People will be lovers of themselves. People will be high-minded. People will be disobedient to parents. People will lack affection. But that really goes to a lot of you men. A lot of you men, what 2 Timothy is talking about, deceptive. And see, let me go back to this talking point with this video, this content. These younger women, you can easily impress them. They're impressed by the cars. They're impressed by the condo, the high-rise apartment that you live in or whatever. They're impressed by your money, whatever steak dinners you can take them on. These little lavish restaurants, you taking them 2 or 3 hours outside of their hometown, just wowing them. But these older women, they got their own money. These older women, they can go on girls' trips. These older women, they can go to Jamaica. They can go to Puerto Rico. They can go to Dubai with their homegirls without needing a man to fund that. And that's the problem. Subconsciously, a lot of you men don't want to admit it, but you want a woman to have enough, but not more than you. That's why it's a disingenuous question whenever I hear men say, what do you bring to the table? Why does it even matter? Because at this point, it don't matter what a woman brings to the table. A lot of you going to find something wrong with her anyway. If she's bringing enough, bringing a little less than you or more than you, it's going to be a problem either way. Coming and going, going and coming. It don't matter. Because men, we are the ones to find a wife. The Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. It's not she who finds a husband obtains favor from the Lord. But the way a lot of you men are, the way a lot of you think, it's like y'all have this thing flipped on his head. So it's your job to find a wife. And y'all are upset with a lot of these women, nitpicking women, when it's not their job to find you. It's not their job to find a husband. It's your responsibility as a man to be responsible for your actions. We have to start being better leaders of ourselves, being better leaders of our families, being better of our households. But it first starts with being a leader of yourself. If you can't lead yourself, it don't matter what a woman is, younger, older, you're going to be a problematic man to any woman that exists. You're going to be because we have so many men that's lost, and that have potential. But that's why I despise Red Pill. That's why I despise so much of this manosphere content, because it's supposedly self-improving, men improving themselves and all this other stuff. But it's really more so a bullying movement that bully women and bash women and find something wrong with every category of women. And it's just a lot of sassy behavior. It's a lot of sassy, ungodly, sassy man behavior. And a lot of you get mad at my content, the way I deliver my messages, but it don't matter what type of woman a woman is. That's why I say a good woman to y'all, to a lot of you men, is a woman that's going to put up with the cheating, a woman that's going to put up with the gaslighting, that's going to put up with the narcissism, that's going to put up with all of the deceptive behaviors. That's what a good woman is to you. But a good woman is a woman that's not going to tolerate that. A good woman is going to be a woman of value. She knows herself. She's confident. She sets out. She sees something in foresight, and she wants to accomplish it, and she does. And those type of women are the type of women to that you would want to give you your son, to give you your daughter. Because why? Why would you think about this, fellas? Why would you want a weak woman? Why would you want a weak woman that you can manipulate and all this other stuff, and then she gives you a daughter and she's weak like the woman that you got? You want your daughter to be weak like the woman that you want? You want your daughter to settle for a deceptive man, to settle for a man that's just a trash bag, scumbag man? That's what you want? You want a man to do your daughter the same way you did the mama? I bet you don't want that. I bet you don't want that. So let's stop playing these games. Let's stop moving the goalposts talking about, man, you know, these older women, they're set in their ways. They don't want to change. And, you know, these younger women, they're easier to mold. They're easier to work with because they don't have all that trauma. They're easier to mold into a doormat. I mean, yeah, I don't want to mold a woman into a doormat. You know, y'all slipping up and telling on yourselves. Slipping up and telling on yourselves. And it's just that simple. It's just that simple. I can't put it no plain and blunt than that. So I just looked at this video and I laughed at it, and it just, let me say this real quick though. I do understand some situations where there are relationships where the man happens to be 10 years older, 12 years older, 15 years older. That's fine and dandy. That's cool. Long as your heart as a man is in the right place. And it's really in the right place, and it's really organic, and you're not trying to be in a place where you're manipulating her and all this other stuff. I have seen couples, and I'm sure y'all have seen it, where the man's 10 years older, maybe 15 years older. But when you a 50-year-old man, 55, 60-year-old man, but you only want to deal with a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, nah, that's predator behavior. That's predator behavior. It really is. Would you want your daughter, 25 years old, with a 50-year-old man? With a 55-year-old man? Huh? Would you want your 18-year-old daughter? She legal. She 18. But would you want to see her with a 36-year-old? With a 40-year-old? Would you want, do you be okay with that, fellas? Since I'm simping, since I'm pandering, I bet you wouldn't want to see that. I bet you wouldn't want to see your 21-year-old sister with a 56-year-old man. I bet you wouldn't want to see that. So let's stop the games, man. Let's stop the games. You know, like I say, I've seen that work out where the man is maybe 10, 12, 15 years old or whatever. Sometimes even, but I can't really speak on that because that's really a lot of couples from the 70s and the 60s where they did that. Things were different then. But now in this generation, the men are way different. The men are way different in a lot of bad ways, in a bunch of negative ways. But anyway, man, I just want to chop it up with y'all real quick. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Peace.